how to help your partner open up and explore more sexually. Hey there, in this video, I'm going to be talking about how you can help your partner open up a bit more and explore more. The reason I'm covering this topic in this video is because it's something that I run into often. I will often get one partner reaching out to me saying something like, he never wants to do this, or she's never open to that. What can I do? How can I get them to want to experiment more or play more or be more sexual? So it's something that I see quite often. And so I wanted to put this video out there to help people because I know it's such a common issue. All right, before we get into that, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Doing so greatly helps this channel because it tells the algorithm that people want this content. My goal with this always is to get great educational information out there to help as many people as possible. And so the more YouTube shows it to people, the more people get to benefit from this information. I am Kevin Anthony. I am a certified sexologist, Tantra Counselor, NLP Practitioner, and sex, love, and relationship coach. And for over a decade, I have been helping men, women, and couples have the relationship of their dreams and the best sex of their lives. Okay, so how do we encourage our partner to be more open and explore more sexually? Well, one of the things that I think is always great is to have an agreement in your relationship that you will try almost anything at least once. And so that's the first recommendation here, number one, is have a conversation and see if you can come to that agreement. Now, obviously, if they want to try something that is dangerous or potentially harmful or illegal or something like that, that's a whole other story. Those are the outlying situations. But in general, you should trust your partner enough where you could say, okay, I'm willing to pretty much try anything once. You can, of course, put some limitations around that, like accept these things over here. But it's a great way because that way when your partner comes to you and says, hey, I'd like to try this, you're not blindsided like, oh my God, what does this mean? Right? So having that conversation, establishing that first is a great first step. So number one was to have that agreement. Number two is to make sure that you set aside some time to really have an open, honest, mature conversation about sex. This is something, again, that I see really, really often is, a lot of the people I work with say they struggle to talk about sex. Like, it's just a difficult conversation for most people to have. And a lot of time what happens is they want their partner to open up and explore more, but they don't have the conversations beforehand. And it's like in the moment, like, I want to try this. And then the person feels sort of blindsided, like, right? And then if they say no, then it might, shift the whole dynamic of the sex in that time. Maybe sex won't even happen. If they go along with it, but they didn't really want to go along with it, then they regret it later. And so in the moment is really not a good time. The best time is beforehand. So you really want to make sure that you set aside some time to sit down and really talk about sex. And in that conversation, you can then do number three. All right, number three is to explain what your needs and desires are sexually and why they're important to you. Sometimes people are like, hey, I want to try this. Well, I don't like that. That's weird. Why would you want to do that, right? And it's just like instantly you get into this, sort of like, I don't understand you. This doesn't really make sense. And the other person can get defensive. Whereas if you sit down and you have that conversation and you simply say, I have a need for whatever it is, right? And in order to fulfill that need, I would like to try this thing. And, if I'm able to try that and my needs are met, I will feel this way or it will mean this to me, right? It's a whole different way of approaching it. So it's no longer just about, I want this, I want that. It's about, here's a need that I have and here's why that need is important to me. And here's how you could help me fulfill that need. And that really shifts the narrative quite a bit. That brings me to number 4, which is to reassure your partner that this isn't because the sex isn't good. This isn't because there's anything wrong with them, right? This is just because you either have a need or a desire, you want to spice things up, or you just want to try something new to keep it fresh, right? So you take it away from being about them and about what you can create together in the relationship. You'd be surprised how many times people take these things personally and take offense. It's like, hey, I want to try some toys. Like, could we maybe bring a vibrator into the bedroom? And the other person's like, I'm not good enough. Am I not satisfying you? Are you not orgasming? Right? And they immediately take offense to it. Whereas if you approach it from like, the sex is already great. Like, I love having sex with you. And I'm curious, like, what else could it be? Where else could we take it? What else could we experience? Wouldn't it be fun to maybe try this and just see what happens, right? So it's not about, their poor performance. I'm not even saying there was poor performance, but, you take it away from that and make it more about what you're bringing to the relationship. Which of course leads me right into number 5, which is you really want to stress that this is in addition to, this is adding to the sex. It's not taking away from. So to use my other example of, hey, I would like to bring, say, the use of a vibrator into the bedroom. The other person's like, oh, well then, so what does that mean? Does that mean we do less penetration, or, sex is somehow going to be different or worse for me? You're like, no. This is about enhancing it for both of us. This is about taking it to another level. So we're adding to the sex as opposed to substituting or taking away in some way. All right, number 6. Number 6, I think, is a ton of fun. It might be a bit edgy for some people, but it is to take a class or a workshop. Sometimes it's easier in the context of like, here's a whole, workshop, here's a whole teacher, here's a whole group of people who are, experimenting and trying new things and learning something new, as opposed to here's just some weird thing that I want to do over here, right? I've done more than I can count over the years of workshops, some that were very small private groups, some that were giant groups full of people. I have total strangers, right? Where you're talking about very sexual things and potentially even practicing some sexual things. But it really is, and can be at least anyway, a really fun way to explore and to grow and to add new things and to learn new things. Sometimes you might not even know what it is that you want to do to change things up and expand and explore. And maybe finding a workshop to go to, or it could be an online course or an online workshop. Could even be reading some books. But it can really give you new, fresh ideas. And you have the opportunity to try some stuff. All right, number 7 is to work with a coach. I added this on here because sometimes couples are really hesitant to try these things on their own. And working with a coach really gives them permission to try stuff because, coach said so. It also allows them to, get good instructions so that they don't, make some missteps that could potentially be problems. And it also allows them to get feedback because then they get to come back to the coach and say, okay, here's what we did. Here's what we tried. Here's how it went. In some instances, the coach might even be there observing what's happening and giving some feedback. So these are all things that are possible. And, they can really, really, really help you open up and explore realms of sexuality that you either didn't know existed or were potentially even afraid to approach. All right, number 8, that is to create some agreements. So there are some important agreements. If you're asking your partner to expand outside of what they feel comfortable in, it's important to have some agreements. So agreements such as, you can stop at any time. Okay, I would love to experiment with this. I would love to try this new thing. And if at any moment, right, it's not working for you, just say so and we can stop. Either party can call a stop at any time, right? So even if it was my idea and I was like, hey, I want to try this, like let's see how it goes. If in the middle of it something's not working for me, I get to say, you know what, I'm calling a stop to this. So it's really important that both parties feel that they can say stop at any time. Another example of an agreement could be that you don't ever have to do it again. So just because we agreed to do it this one time does not mean that we ever have to do it again if it doesn't work for one of us. So agreements are a really great way to make people feel comfortable and more at ease with exploring a bit more. All right, number 9, remember that this is supposed to be about fun and pleasure. So always approach it from that point of view, and don't turn it into like some really intense thing where it's like, we got to do this and this is supposed to be about fun and pleasure, relaxation, even in some cases. So definitely approach the subject matter in general from that point of view. All right, number 10 is after the experience is over, then talk about it. Share with each other. How was it? What did you like? What didn't you like? And you really get to kind of talk through that and share. What were your highlights? What were your lowlights? Would you be willing to do it again? That sort of thing. That really helps bring some closure, and it really helps both of you sort of get in touch with how you felt about a particular experience that you had and whether or not you would be willing to do it again. Which leads me to the last one, number 11, which is to have some sort of clear agreement as to whether or not you would be willing to try something again. Sometimes what I see is, couples will try something and they kind of talk about it, but then they just never talk about it again. And it kind of hangs out there in the air. And one partner's like, I kind of want to try that thing again, but he or she hasn't talked about it ever since, and they've never even brought it up, and they never even said, hey, remember when we did that? So now I'm not really sure if they liked it or if they want to do it again. So rather than having that happen, just to be really clear, it's great to have a conversation afterwards. Obviously, you can share what you like and what you didn't like, and if you want, in that same conversation, you could say, you know what? That was kind of cool, and I would totally be open to trying it again. Or you might say, I'm glad we tried it. It was okay, but it's not something that I'd really like to do again. The point is that you're both clear on that particular thing and whether or not you're interested in doing it again. And if not, you can move on, try something else. If you are, you can incorporate that into your lovemaking, at whatever frequency you want, and or continue trying other new things. All right, there you go. Those are some ways that you can encourage your partner and support them in being more open and exploring more sexually. As always, if you are looking for more from me, please go to my website at kevinanthonycoaching.com/link in bio. That is a link tree that has links to everything that I'm up to, from my coaching programs to my podcast to my online courses and great products to help support your sex, love, and relationship, and so much more. It's all right there.